who do they want to work with? What brings people the most joy? What's the most profitable type of business? What do they like working on best, or the team like working on best? It depends on the size of the company. It could be a one person, it could be a two-person company, or it could be a smaller company. It's good to get everybody involved in that process. Even if it's a bigger company, there's generally a board of directors and maybe department heads under that, and it's good to get everybody's buy-in and everybody's opinions, because if you just talk to the owners, it's a very sort of narrow perspective that you get.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedluck, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I am here with my most amazing guest, Tracey. Tracey, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's lovely to talk to you and your audience.
Awesome. So give us a highlight of who you are and a quick introduction to your business.
Okay, so Tracey Burnett, obviously. I'm based in the UK, but most of my clients are in the US. Been doing this for forever, it seems. I've had my own business for 32 years. Before that, I've always been in marketing. Started off at Unilever. I've been living in Spain for 7 years and come back to cold, rainy, foggy, dark, miserable England. But of course, I've got my family, which puts a little bright shine around the cloud. And my business, obviously I've been going 32 years, so it's sort of, it's evolved as time's gone on. I came online about, 16 years ago, something like that, and started specializing in LinkedIn about 6 years ago because it worked for me. Got fed up with Facebook, decided to give LinkedIn another little go, and found it really frustrating. So did a couple of training courses, took the best of those, melded them with my own process, and it really worked for me. So I thought, why aren't I offering this to my clients? And that's how it all started 6 years ago.
Nice. I love it. So let's talk about your marketing career. What made you decide to go into marketing as a thing?
Oh gosh, I wish I could say, I wish I could say I wanted to do that since I was a little girl. But actually, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an air hostess, and that's the days when it was actually a quite glamorous job, I think, because given my age. I never did that. I sort of fell into marketing, really. There was nothing that I really was passionate about that I thought I wanted to do. And I just fell into it. So dead boring, really, but, really enjoyed it. Working on, with companies like Unilever, obviously you get to work on very big brands. I worked on, the launch of, one of the biggest brands, and staple sort of brands that I don't know whether you know of in the US, like Pears soap. Would you know what that is?
I do. I do because I'm Canadian. So okay. we do have a huge, Brit expats and immigrants. And so oftentimes our stores will have a UK section in them.
Okay. So it was really exciting to work with sort of, a big company, work on big brands and see how it all worked from, that side of it. I've worked in TV, I've worked in financial services for a big bank, and that's quite interesting because you get that whole global aspect, and to, be the marketing hub for, it was a bank called Barclays Worldwide. Wow. So, quite interesting work, really. And then I was director of a consultancy. Again, we were in Europe, America, and the Far East. So again, very exciting. Worked on loads of different things. There was a number of different companies within the business, and so got to work on things like packaging for the Heinz brand and British Airways and major branding projects. So, and then I started out on my own because the company had expanded too quickly and went bust. And there I was thinking, okay, what now?
So before we tease off into your business, just want to Did you find that there was any difference between branding for the big brands and branding for small brands, other than you were designing, airplane wraps and things like that
Yeah,
you obviously
yeah.
wouldn't do for a smaller company, but
Yeah, obviously, when you're doing branding for a company like Heinz, because they're so big and people recognize the name, even if I showed you part of the Z, you'd probably recognize it as the Heinz brand. And so you have to really take care of that brand property. And so you're making little tweaks where when you're working with smaller companies, certainly as I do now, it's a whole different sort of ball game. Because they're not going out, haven't got multi-million-pound budgets and going out to the wide world. They just want to be known within their little niche.
You can change the Z and nobody will notice.
Exactly. So, yeah. And of course, it's just totally different working with those sorts of companies than it is working with small businesses. You get to know the person and the person and their personality and their likes and dislikes can all be sort of melded into the brand, where obviously it's not that kind of thing. Airways or Heinz
or Unilever. Awesome.
Exactly.
So now when you're working with clients, you're mostly focused on the LinkedIn aspect of things, or are you still helping them with the branding, the messaging? And
yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not, because of my background, if somebody comes to me and says, as they did a few months back, I've got 35 staff, I'd like them all trained on LinkedIn, I say that's lovely, I can definitely do that. But first, let's look at, your brand, your brand values, what your, in this case, it was a partnership. So, what your vision is as your purposes as a business, what your vision is, what your mission is, what your value proposition is, what your marketing message should be. And then from there, obviously, you can more easily position them. The client I'm specifically thinking about, when I did a competitive review, everybody was pretty much the same. You could take one, you wouldn't be able to take one letter off of their branding and sort of know who they were. You wouldn't even be able to tell any difference between their posts, come to that. So there was, there's a real opportunity in that sort of situation to elevate them above everybody else. And then your job on LinkedIn or any, you can take that work anywhere. That's sort of what that's stage one work, if you like. You can take the company can take that anywhere and apply that to all of their marketing, whether that be just their website or any social media. So that is quite a valuable piece of work, but it certainly makes marketing your business on LinkedIn a lot easier as well. And for any business, if you're focused on a particular audience and you've got a specific proposition that's different from other companies, then you're going to stand out. Yes, you will attract the right sort of clients, but you will repel, will repel clients as well because they don't recognize themselves, which, as long as you're cool with that. I mean, some people do get a bit sort of fidgety in their chair. Funny enough, I had a client this afternoon and we were talking about audience, and he wanted to add in two audiences, people that were employed and people that were entrepreneurs and had their own business. And I do see people squirming a little bit, but at the end of the day, they either buy into that or not. And if they don't, what generally happens, I'm thinking of another client of mine who she didn't want to niche down too much. So she just did what she was comfortable with, which if they're comfortable, I'm comfortable. But after a few months, then she gets the confidence to niche down even more. And then she sees her results increase. So it sounds counterintuitive a little bit to sort of be repelling certain types of, potential clients. But in actual fact, it's easier to sell to the ones that remain. Oh dear. And also, sorry about that, I thought I turned it off. And also, it's more enjoyable experience for you, because if you're using your skills and experience and working with people that you love on, the type of work that you love, it makes your life much more enjoyable. So there's so many benefits to it, really.
Absolutely. And I think the smaller businesses have a hard time with that. I mean, the Nikes of the world, it's really a marketing decision. It's very impersonal. It's not emotional. It's not who we are and who we're bringing out into the world. Whereas I think with entrepreneurs, that's my baby. It's not even who I am. It's my baby, and you can't be messing with that. So they really do have an emotional anguish trying to figure out who this is, and of course not wanting to repel an audience, thinking that they're going to lose money off of that.
Yeah, but I always liking it. I don't know whether you've ever done any rock climbing. You're standing at the top and you're about to sort of, do you call it be laid down? I haven't done rock climbing for years, but it's that moment when you're standing at the top and one part of you is saying, I'm going to die if I throw myself off the edge. And the other part of you saying, don't be so ridiculous, because, you've got all your safety harness on and it's going to be a real thrill on the way down. And it's a little bit like that when you're just sort of narrowing down your audience and thinking, oh, well, there's those people that I can't work with, or I won't be able to work with because I'm repelling them in some way. But I always think it's a little bit like that. You sort of it's partly excited and partly scared out of your wits.
And I love it. So when somebody is thinking about that, what kind of aspects of their business or whatever are you looking at? If somebody, say for us, because I know for the longest time we had the hardest time figuring out, what is our niche, because we could go with professional services, we could go with speakers, we can go, and to us there's really not that much difference in their business, but they recognize themselves as being very different. So how do you start somebody to wrap their head around where to start narrowing their niche in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as business owners, and I include myself in this, that when I've done this exercise over the years, I feel the same as all my clients, and I find it very difficult to do for myself. So the beauty of working with people like you and I is we see it in a less emotional way, and we can sort of see it 360 degrees. So I tend to ask a lot of questions initially, and I want to know things like what they've done before in their previous life and what they enjoy doing, and who their favorite client is, and I mean, lots and lots of questions about basically what their business has been made up of, but also what their previous life has been made up of. Yeah, exactly. Been a long day.
Right.
Yeah, so and things just sort of, after a couple of brainstorming sessions, things just seem to sort of take shape. I'm seeing things, I'm sort of picking up things from day one, really, about, that sounds really interesting, that sounds really different. And again, the beauty of working with an external person is that that person's doing this work day in, day out, week in, week out. And so there's all that experience that they can draw on. So they know more what's unique and what isn't, and they can look at things in a much more sort of non-emotional way. So that's how we start, really, just brainstorming. And who do they want to work with? What brings people the most joy? What's the most profitable type of business? What do they like working on best, or the team like working on best? It depends on the size of the company. It could be a one-person, it could be a two-person company, or it could be a smaller company. It's good to get everybody involved in that process. Even if it's a bigger company, there's generally a board of directors and maybe department heads under that, and it's good to get everybody's buy-in and everybody's opinions, because if you just talk to the owners, it's a very sort of narrow perspective that you get. So they're good to talk to when it's about maybe obviously purpose, because it's their business, but the people in lower down the ranks, if you like, always have something really interesting to contribute, and so do the clients. If you do client research, that's very insightful. And also looking at the competition, as I mentioned before, I can get a real picture of where the gaps are in the market. You know, what can they plug? What are they, you know, how plausible are they going to be, you know, with certain offers? So it's really through questioning and brainstorming and just honing down. And it's very much sort of a process. It starts with, you know, the purpose. And so how do we actually achieve that purpose? What's their vision? And then how are we going to achieve that vision? So what's the mission? And then, you know, from all of that comes their USP, their value proposition, and then we can funnel that down into a marketing message and develop the target audience. So yeah, it doesn't sound very scientific, but there's definitely a process to it.
There's definitely a process to it. So when you go into a company, do you tend to do a lot of upfront work in interviewing people before you get started? Is that kind of part and parcel with what you do, or is that exceptional?
It depends on the company, really. And it just depends on the company, because if, for example, I'm working with an executive coach, I mean, who are their competitors? I mean, in theory, you know, all other executive coaches, I mean, you can narrow it down, but when a company, a bigger company, always comes up against certain competitors in a pitch situation, then they pretty much know who their top 5 competitors are. So, you know, what we want to do is differentiate them. So when they do come up in a pitch situation, the potential client can see how they stand head and shoulders above everybody else. You know, but if you're an executive coach, then I probably would not do any competitive research. I pretty much know the coaching market, obviously not everything, but, you know, I've got a pretty good handle on it. Yeah. And, you know, I get to see loads of LinkedIn profiles and loads of newsfeed posts. And so what I'm trying to do there, certainly if it's a smaller business, is, you know, each person that owns a business is unique. And therefore, if we take the essence of that person, or the essences of that person, because there's lots of different strands, and develop their business around that, then unique by definition. So sometimes, you know, I work on what I call the genius zone. So if you take my zone of genius, it's obviously marketing and LinkedIn, but my passion is for food. I know, don't get you started on that subject, be here all night. So, you know, I could, in theory, have those 2 zones of genius overlapping, and that would make me, you know, pretty unique, certainly when I add on other peripheral bits underneath. So, you know, we talk about zones of genius and how perhaps we can work with those. So it really depends on the client. I don't work on I do have a process, and, you know, I work through it in order. But really, each experience is unique to each particular client.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, it's you bring up a ton of good points, in that if a company is larger, there are a lot more decision makers in there, and a lot more influencers in there. And one of the things that I've noticed is oftentimes in certain size companies, the LinkedIn persona of the business, that persona doesn't actually go into their own LinkedIn. So they're not the one that actually sees the post or interacts with anything. They become a facade of their own company. It's really exactly the frontline people seeing it.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, in one respect, you know, if you've got a larger company, then you've got a bigger army to, you know, go out there and spread the message. So if you have got, you know, 40 people in the company and they all spend 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn, just think how, you know, how much time that is overall. So, you know, my job in that situation, once all the, you know, the foundational work is done, is to plan out how I can, or they can use the army, you know, to better effect. Because a lot of companies just post something dead boring on their company page once a week, and that's it. And then you get the employees of the company, that some do use LinkedIn, some don't, some go in and just like a few posts and go out again, and they just say sales director at Heinz or whatever on their tagline, and it's that they're useless profiles really, because they'll never be found. They're not using any keywords. They haven't filled out all the sections, so they won't show up in search results. I mean, there's so much that there's a benefit there really for the employees to upgrade their LinkedIn profiles, because not only are they helping the business that they're working with at that particular point, but they're actually also helping themselves, because they will have a better profile. They will be more easily found by headhunters at some point in the future. So
and that's a conversation I always end up getting into, is how do we make your employees entrepreneurs? But we won't go there. But when it comes to, say you have 30 employees that are all in LinkedIn, is it better to have a unified message going into that, or is it better for them to personalize kind of their position within the company and make it unique from the other 29 people that are also posting?
Yes, so obviously there has to be some sort of company line. So for example, and again, it varies from company to company, but it is useful if you can have, say, your banner, or everybody's banner is pretty much the same. So that's sort of spreading the message visually. Then the next probably important element of a profile is the tagline. So if it's quite nice if each person can have their own specialist area. So they're specialists in, I don't know,
whatever they do. So some might be in the creative department, some might be in sales, whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So you slice up, you might slice it by market. So they're specialists in one particular market, or if they're a global company, they specialize in the Far East, or they specialize in a certain product, or whatever it is. So you can within the tagline, you can be unique, but you can also, you've only got 220 characters, so you've got to be a little bit careful. But you can also have something personal in there as well. And then you get onto the about section. The about section can be more personal because it's on a personal profile, and then the experience section, they will talk about the company and the role that they're in. So that's more company orientated. So it's really a melding of the two elements. And again, you have to be slightly careful, because obviously it's somebody's personal profile. It's not a company property. Right. So there, it can be a delicate balance, if you like, of using somebody's personal profile for their existing employer's marketing good.
Right. Interesting.
But if you have got a lot of people and they're all posting, and everybody is commenting on all of the different posts, then obviously they're going to get much more traction. So if you post and then your colleagues are, I say immediately, but within a couple of hours, maybe commenting on your post, that post is really going to get traction. So the algorithm is going to think, hey, this is a really interesting post, and so we'll show it to more of this person's first connections, and then it gets more traction, and it shows it to their first connections, and then the second connections, and so it starts to sort of widen it all out, and then it's like a ball, gathering moss. So it can, that army can be actually very useful.
Right.
Much more difficult if you're just a solopreneur, for example.
Well, yeah, because I would think that if you have those 30 people, that you would want to coordinate those if it's working to their advantage. I would have thought that Google would, or LinkedIn would have known that they were all part of the same company if they're all registered as working in the same company in LinkedIn. That it would have been disadvantageous, because it's like, oh yeah, you guys are just admins on that account kind of thing, and we don't care.
I mean, I'm not saying it's absolutely perfect. I mean, it's certainly,
play with it. Don't make it too stagnant.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you say there are 40 people in the company and you've posted and 39 people have immediately commented, I mean, that's never going to be the case, but say it is, then it is going to be much better than you posting and having one comment on the post from somebody that doesn't work in your business. And when it comes to company pages, that's another ball game, totally different ball game, really. They don't they don't really feature in the news feed very much. So the traction on the company posts is a lot lower.
Right. So when somebody is posting, is it better to focus on their past, like clients that they have helped and things that are going on, or to look forward to the ones that they're looking for? Or is it kind of a combination of both, or is that just not even a consideration? It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so with the content, it's always better to talk to the type of client you're wanting to attract. So, if you know what their interests are, you say it's somebody that works in a business and it's director level, you can make certain assumptions about, the sort of issues, challenges that they have within the business. Certainly, which you would really understand the business that they're in, then you can tell a lot, or you can assume a lot about the audience that you're actually going for. And so it's much easier to write, whether it's an email, whether it's a newsfeed post, whether it's a website, you would always talk to the person that you're trying to attract. And then in terms of the content, it's better to plan that. So, what are your content pillars going to be over the year? What are you talking about? So mine, for example, would be, I've got a 3-step process. So first of all, I would talk about what I call the Unshakable Business Foundation, which is everything we've been talking about, plus product and pricing. And then the second bit is visibility and credibility. That's all about obviously getting more visible and building your know, like, and trust factor, specifically on LinkedIn. And then the third bit is converting that interest into paying clients. And then my fourth pillar is marketing, because obviously I've got many decades experience in marketing. So I have those 4 content pillars, and from that I know what my themes are. So I'm pretty much clear about, my framework, if you like, for connecting. And then there's other decisions to make, like, what format are you going to use? So video obviously is a better format, but some people don't like doing video. So then you start to talk about how you can, what your actual day-to-day content looks like in terms of how often you post, what sorts of formats you're using, whether you're going to have a newsletter, whether or not you're going to do LinkedIn Live or do debates on LinkedIn audio, or whatever it is. That depends on the company and the people that are actually writing the content, and partly it depends on what sort of business it is. So then we're getting into the sort of the nitty gritty. And then if you keep stats on what's happening, you'll be able to tell pretty, let's say within 3 months, where you're getting the best bang for your buck on LinkedIn. And you can start to do more of that. Don't know whether that answers the question. It's a bit of a big answer, or a big question.
Exactly. Yeah, you're doing awesome. So give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
Cinderella story. Gosh, I don't know who to pick. There's one client, let's pick her, Tammy. I don't know whether it's necessarily a Cinderella story, but she's a coach, a career coach. When I don't know how long we've been working together, maybe 3 years, I mean. And now she's absolutely flying. I mean, she's employed other coaches. Not only has she employed other coaches, she's got a team of people doing her content for her. She pretty much is never on LinkedIn now, because now she briefs the team. She's got people doing sales for her, so she's sort of jet setting around the world. Well, I think she'd probably call herself a digital nomad. She's just off to live for a while in Mexico after being in Belize. So I think that's pretty, she wasn't rags to riches, because she's pretty
maybe just mayhem to order.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it's just giving people that stepping stone up to the next level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, she was a superstar from the beginning, really, because one of the things I always cover off with clients is their low-hanging fruit. Where can they get clients right now? And we went through a number of ideas. She actually actioned them, and she got $10,000 sale out the gate. So nice. That's always nice. And, you know, it's pretty easy to do, really. But it's even easier if you've got somebody to guide you, and it's even easier if you're an action taker and you're consistent. I mean, that's the number.
There's that.
That's the number one thing.
Yeah, that one that nobody likes to be.
I know.
It sounds great. I would love to be that, but
yeah, and the thing is, you know, there are other people that pay you the money that you do your part, and they don't do their part, you know, because they decide to take 2 months off, or go on a holiday every month, or just can't be bothered, or just lose interest and you know, go off and do something else and come back to it. I mean, that's just not the way it works. You know, you need to be dedicated to building your business and putting in the time and putting in the effort, you know. Right. And you know, even if ultimately you do offload it to somebody else, I always believe that you need to have done that. You need to have honed your process. Because as much as I can give you a process, you know, we all sort of wiggle into that and make it our own, you know, what works for us. And I think once you've done that, and you know, you can easily brief somebody else to do it for you, if that's what you want to do.
I love it. So what are some of the struggles that somebody might be having listening to this? They're in their business and going, oh, Tracey, I need you so badly.
A lot of the time people have tried LinkedIn and thought, oh, how difficult can this be? And they do it themselves, and then they think, you know, I'm not getting anything out of this. So they either say, okay, let's get some help with this, or they just think LinkedIn is a useless platform and I'm going to go and use Instagram, or whatever they say, or I'm going to go and get a job. I'm going to solve my business, or whatever it is.
40 employees. I'm going to go fold my business. You guys all go home. I'm done. LinkedIn doesn't work.
Yeah, or they could be, another sort of common scenario is that they've been living off of referrals and recommendations, which is great, but as soon as you see a downturn, you're totally out of control, because you haven't got anything in the pipeline. You have just you've just assumed that work's going to come in. And so if you've got goals, how can you possibly reach your goals if you're relying on referrals and recommendations? So that's another scenario. And of course, everybody sort of hears, oh, LinkedIn's a really good platform for B2B, and I've built my business on LinkedIn, and all these sorts of stories. So people tend to get curious. But generally, it's that they've just got bigger goals, and they don't know how to achieve them, really.
I love it. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start their journey with you?
Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. So that's Tracey Burnett. I think it's linkedin.com/in/Tracey Burnett, or my website is tracyburnett.com. There's a video on the homepage. You can listen to that. And there's a button on the left-hand side of the video, which will take you to a quiz. And to find out whether you're a LinkedIn ninja or a LinkedIn learner. And you get loads of advice from me, depending on what your level is.
Or if you like me, or LinkedIn lackey. Maybe we need another one underneath that one.
Yeah, I think it's LinkedIn ninja, LinkedIn star, LinkedIn learner. I can't remember what the other one is. Anyway, yeah, there's 4 levels basically.
Figure out where we're at. That's awesome. I love it. So we will, of course, have all of Tracey's notes in the show notes, peeps. So just scroll down, find Tracey's links, head over there right now if you'd like, and go and check it out. So Tracey, at what point in life did you know that you were a special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Good question. As I said earlier, the business that I was working for, the consultancy, sort of almost went bust over. Well, they did go bust overnight. There was a biker basically came to my apartment in London and gave me an envelope, and the car had to go back, and the expenses weren't paid, and all this sort of stuff. And at that point, I was dating this guy who had his own design consultancy. And he was very successful, had some interesting clients, had a lovely apartment in a nice part of London and drove around in a Porsche. And I just sort of thought, if he can do that, I can do that. And so off I went.
Nice. That's awesome. So do you own a Porsche now?
I had a Lotus Elan actually within a year of starting my business, and then it got stolen. Can you believe?
How rude.
I know.
That's awesome. I love it. You're fabulous. You've been awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
No, just, take my advice and always stay in action and always be consistent and make sure you're doing the right thing first, of course. Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I know how valuable it is.
Absolute pleasure, Michelle. Thank you.
Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to share it with your friends. Subscribe to the show because we love having entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.